So I'm from France, based in New York City. I joined Lifeworks a year ago, and before that, I was starting a company with Alex called Aimvest out of MIT. So I met this guy, what is it, like 2, 3 years ago now, at MIT, and so my background is data and kind of like financial engineering in general. And at Lifeworks, I'm in charge of data science, but really for like a young startup like this, data science means a lot of things. It's like investment strategy research, planning software, performance reporting, all that kind of stuff. Whenever there is data, I'm usually involved.
Yeah. And how about you, Alex?
So same France as well, another French guy. Didn't meet Hugo in France indeed. We met only in grad school in the US in Boston. I come from a background which is a lot more, I would say, traditional or conventional than Hugo. I really don't come from the entrepreneurship world or tech world. So more like your typical, math slash history type of
Is that
education
typical?
and yeah, and like no startup work at all before meeting Hugo and starting one. Today at Lifeworks, I'm in charge of designing and maintaining and communicating around our investment strategies. So investment, I would say VP of investment strategies.
Yeah. So why don't you just tell the audience a little bit about what makes LifeWorks Advisors different? Like, why do your users come to you?
Absolutely. So maybe right before we talk about LifeWorks, one thing that would be interesting for you to know is what the startup that we built was, because there is a huge overlap between what we were trying to achieve with Hugo on our own before that little startup that we've built was acquired by LifeWorks. So the broad idea is that since the middle of the past century, or at least the 1950s or 60s, like the investment industry has been working around the same pillars, and there hasn't been any like critical or groundbreaking innovation on the investment front. So you've had a lot of innovation on the tech side, like the way things are being packaged is much better now. You know, you can invest using your phone. You don't have to call your broker and buy stocks. However, on the pure investment strategy side, people have been doing the same. And when I say people, I mean advisors, for example, for individual investors. Advisors and individual investors have been doing the same for 60 years. That is, you give your client, your individual client, a questionnaire, a risk questionnaire, and through this questionnaire, you're trying to figure out the risk tolerance of that client, which ends up being a number, let's say a 6 out of 10, like on a range. And based on that number, you would assign a portfolio with a certain risk, like a certain risk loading to it, that is deemed to be appropriate to that risk number. So that broad idea is basically what everybody has been doing for so many decades. And with Hugo, we felt like every industry needs to be disrupted at some point. Like you need to make progress, especially when technology has made so much progress. And the idea behind Aimvest and the problem that we solved is really this one. Like, how can you go to an investor, either as an advisor or as an investment fund manager or anyone? How do you go to that person and really figure out what type of risk they should have in their portfolio that would be appropriate to their economic life? That is, this guy is going to be a retiree, or this guy is trying to buy a house in 10 years. How do you use those variables and how do you quantify them to have a portfolio that is more than 60% stocks and 40% bonds, because you are a risk score of 6 out of 10 that is set and that you just watch forever? And so we invented that kind of product at Aimvest, where you could call it a customized structured product where, given your the maturity of your goal, really your investment goal, let's say for retirement or buying a house, and the amount that you expect to spend and the amount that you expect to earn in between, then you would have an optimal portfolio, and that would be dynamically rebalanced. Basically, this is Aimvest. And on the other end, so Aimvest is this tech, and Lifeworks was an advisory company. So with advisors that were facing this same problem, the risk questionnaire problem, and they realized that there was an overlap between the problem that they were trying to solve, because they were realizing that the questionnaires were a nightmare, like they were a joke, and they were trying to figure out a solution, and ourselves that had the solution. And so we brought those together. And to answer your question, and I'll finish here, why are people coming to Lifeworks? It's really because, people come to Lifeworks because we have that, the way we talk about investment is really related to financial planning, because we have a solution that takes their planning data. So in how many years are you gonna buy a house? In how many years are you gonna retire? And we give them back a portfolio that is customized to those inputs. And that's really like the main differentiator of Lifeworks today.
And when you started out building Aimvest, were you planning for that? Were you planning to have the software be acquired, or did that just kind of happen? What was that process like?
Yeah, that really kind of happened. Really wasn't the plan. I guess about a year and a half ago, we had 3 avenues. The first one being continue building the software on our own, raising some capital and growing our client base, which is the normal, like the standard avenue when you are an entrepreneur trying to build a startup. The second avenue, we had an opportunity to join an incubator by Barclays in New York City. So Barclays, this big bank, would have bought a chunk of our own company and also provided us with a lot of resources, which was pretty exciting. And the third one, which came really out of the blue, was Lifeworks' offer. And so we were part, as a startup, we were part of an accelerator the summer before, and we had a demo day where we demoed our idea and our technology. And the CEO of Lifeworks actually ran across that video, I guess. And so he got in touch, and we really realized what I just told you before in the previous question, that we were coming to the same problem from different angles. And so it made a lot of sense to merge the companies and take advantage of the synergies. And in if I remember correctly, in 2 or 3 weeks, we had never met this guy, we had never met the shareholders of Lifeworks, and in a very short period of time, the company, the startup was sold, and we joined them because it made so much sense.
It was the middle of COVID, basically.
Wow. So it was a surprise. What a pleasant surprise to find out that your tech that you were building was valuable and other folks thought that it could be super useful. I'm kind of familiar with the history of how portfolio advising was not that nuanced. It's just we'll give you some bonds or some stocks. You more conservative, more bonds. Less conservative, more stocks. And it's not that sophisticated. But it seems like data science has really made a difference here. You can do better job of helping folks have the right portfolio. How are you using data science and all the data that's available now that wasn't available in the past to make that process more sophisticated?
Yeah, so I think the way we use data science can be broken down into 2 parts. On one hand, you have, to me, the investment creation, so where you're going to build your strategy. And those tools they've been there for a while, quantitative strategies have been around for 20, 30 years. But nowadays they are extremely accessible. So if we look at the data that we need to build one, Intrinio comes in. That's a very easy, to integrate API. It's simple. The tools, the coding, the library, all of that also becomes more and more available to everybody. So that to create robust and customizable strategies, that are not, so basically here I'm saying that are not like stock picking, like your advisors, they will pick a couple of stocks or just randomly assign like a mix of equity and bonds to your portfolio. So that's the tools are here in data science, but they've been here kind of. I think where the data science becomes very interesting, like in the last maybe 5 years, let's say, it's on the other side when it comes to understanding the client and being able to generate that planning input that is necessary to come to the right portfolio, right? You have like, I think I'm a big believer, for example, of like all the banking, the open banking, the all those open APIs that allow us to really get a comprehensive picture of the client. Because if we don't have that information, there is no way we can actually build the appropriate portfolio, right? If we don't understand like the different loans that a client has in their next 20 years, we can do like any type of quantitative strategy, it doesn't matter, right? So data science to me, like really that aspect of understanding the client, there is a lot of tools that are being created everywhere. And I mean, open banking, like the platform like Yodlee or Play, they're like all examples, but there is other, aspects to it. So that's to me like to come up with the right strategy. That's data science has made huge progress there, but there's still a lot of work in making that link between planning and investing.
Yeah, and it's almost like a human factor to get the right information from the clients and then use the data science approach, say based on what's
Right.
actually happening in your life. Do you find it's hard to get that information from clients, or are they very willing to share the right information?
Yeah, it's a collaborative process, right? The advisor work on it, the client works on it, and I think that's also one nuance that we didn't mention. But Lifeworks is special in a way that we're kind of building a robo-advisor, but you have a human advisor, right? And to address that issue, I think that's very important. Extracting, I mean, are they willing? I think yes, they're willing. They're eager to get investment solutions that actually match their needs. I think the issue has been how hard it is to actually communicate like precisely your financial situation in like a standardized data structure. Like it's been very, very idiosyncratic up until that point. Like the client has the discussion with an advisor and describe like some kind of product that they own or their house, but then there is not much we can do with it because that's just in the head of the advisor, right? And all those kind of API that's starting to emerge, and clients just are more and more willing to share data because they understand that this is part of the process to get better customer service. I think we're getting there.
Yeah, that's been my experience, is that if you combine artificial intelligence, machine learning, and data science with a person, like you pair them together, it's way better than either on their own. Like it doesn't, now that I'm listening to you talk about it, it doesn't really make sense to me that you would talk to a robot alone, just like a purely robotic approach to investing. How could that ever fit the broad diversity of lives that need retirement strategies?
There is a huge piece there for sure. The human is, there's been like this first wave of robo-advisors that are become very successful, and we know them. It's like Acorns, Betterment, all of them, Wealthfront, which are probably the best option for someone that has a very simple financial situation. So that's your like 25, 30-year-old working, no particular, maybe like a real estate asset, but no particular like stuff that is complicated to model, right? But most people are not in that situation. Like most people start to look at retirement. They have very different like sources of income for retirement. It gets very complicated, and even though like it's a myopic like world where we would have everything integrated into like a software like Wealthfront that can just do everything. I think it's going to be extremely hard to get to that point because you actually do need like the human being to have apply some kind of like filter and make it possible.
Yeah, it almost feels, I look at my own behavior and thoughts for the last 10 years and I almost feel naive. Like I could just have a robot do everything and it would be fine. And it makes so much sense to me that you would combine the two. So what is next? I mean, what are you where's this industry going if we're injecting a little bit of an advisor and a human factor, and that's really making a positive difference when you combine it with the tech? What is Lifeworks Advisors going to build next to take it to the next level?
At our company, I think we have obviously solving this map that needs to be created between planning and investing is a huge thing that we are like resolving, and we come up with a solution. But we need to, so advisors, it still costs them time to go through one client and understand that client, build a relationship, and be able to service them like as they should. And so for Lifeworks, one of the key value creation that maybe has not been mentioned like by Alex in the first round is that we are allowing advisors to serve more clients while keeping the same type of customer service that you would expect when you go see an advisor. And that goes through. So now we're out of the kind of financial planning and investment management, but we enter kind of the operational side for financial advisors. Because obviously one big bottleneck in this industry has been that one advisor alone can only manage so many clients, right? Maybe they can have like 50, 100 clients, but if they start having 200 clients, then everything we just talked about becomes irrelevant, right? Because they just don't have time to understand the clients. And so for us, the way we can have the most impact and still do this is allow the advisor to expand their reach by making all their processes more efficient. We really kind of bring scale to the advisory business without removing the human part. I think that's one of the core mission of Lifeworks, and what's definitely next for a long time, I think, because that's an ambitious mission. I don't know, Alex, if you want to add on top of that. We are, like, to that regards, we are like planning to have almost everything that an advisor needs to do to run their business on the same platform, for example. So I think right now, like the average advisor, I think Alex know that maybe, but how many platforms do they use? Like 8 or 10 platforms on average they use?
8 and 12 pieces of software.
Yeah, so it's an operational like mess, right? They just use different software that don't combine well together. They are constantly shifting from one to another. Just takes time, right? We are combining all of that into one software that has, so we are like completing integration with Apex, the clearinghouse and the custodian. And we're going to have, digital account opening, automating rebalancing, planning, all those tools like within the same platform to really make that super efficient. So they can actually like come to, instead of doing 50 or 100 clients, they can take on 200 clients and still spend the time that they need to provide the financial advice.
Yeah, the artificial intelligence and data science piece scales, as far as you need it to scale, but that the human component, that relationship piece, that doesn't scale. And I imagine if you had better tools for the advisors, they could focus on the relationship and actually spend time thinking about the client's needs and figuring out what the best choice is for them instead of logging in to all those 12 different.
Yeah, absolutely. And even they shouldn't spend time thinking about what investment strategy they are using, right? It's not their, in a way, it's not their job. It's not what they've been like prepared to do. So they really need to be able to focus on the human aspect, like you just said. And that's how they create the most value, and that's how they gain scale. And that's what we're trying to let them do.
And do you think that applies more broadly across fintech, that like the service and operation side of actually giving a good experience to customers is kind of the next frontier for these tech companies across fintech that have, they've got software, they've got data science, and they do you think that applies more broadly?
Yeah. I mean, I think there's been like a phase, I think, of just adding scale, and we've reached a point where those companies it's becoming a commodity, right? The Roboadvisor business is a commodity today. It's a race to zero fee. They're all providing the same thing. So I think, yes, like broadly, people and the companies will start to look for how do we add like a better customer service, a better customer experience, especially like when data science is making things very scalable and very commoditized in a way.
Yeah. It's that human factor. I don't like that when I work with a company and I get treated like I'm also a robot. That's not a good experience for me.
There's definitely some industry where like the human factor is not gonna play much of a role, but I think in our particular industry, the financial advisory business, it's a huge component.
We think about onboarding clients and the client experience all the time at Intrinio. So if someone wants to try Lifeworks Advisors and see what that, having like a robo advisor combined with an advisor who understands your needs, if they wanted to try that, how do they get started? I've got your website here. It's lifeworksadvisors.com. But like, what is that experience like if they want to try it out and see what it's like?
Yeah, basically the way people mostly hear about us is either through referral. So they already, like, they have a friend that is a client of Lifeworks that's gonna introduce them to us and hopefully say good things. And the other way is digital marketing that we do a lot. So we go on a webinar and someone from Lifeworks is going to tell you a longer story than we've told you today, but that's gonna bring a prospect or a future client to us. And the day they arrive, and that's something you could find on our website, is the first thing they're gonna have is an appointment, a meeting with one of the advisors of Lifeworks. So the very first interaction is a human interaction. From what I've seen, because like Hugo and I are not on the advisory side, right? We are here to support the advisors, but we've had a lot of opportunities to attend like meetings between advisors and clients. And from what we've seen, like the very first meeting between the advisor and you, Andrew, let's say, is going to be a lot about your own personal life. And I've been like almost shocked at how much people open up and how much they tell about what they own, how much they make, how much they expect to make, how much they expect to spend. And that is absolutely necessary for the person to feel that the advisor has all the tools in the toolbox to help them out. And only when you have had this human interaction and when we've had a complete picture of your economic life and even personal life, then you can try out. We have this smartphone app, web app, and you can onboard, you can try. And most of the time, people don't start by bringing assets over. So they just want to try out planning, they just want to see how the app is going to help them plan for their future inflows and outflows, and they want to get advice from the advisor. But like 2 months, 3 months down the road, they will most of the time bring their assets over to Lifeworks to get these assets managed once they've tried the planning side. And then the investment strategy work comes in, and we use our software and our risk assessment methodologies to invest those in the market.
Yeah, it's definitely a more human process, even though we do have you can become a client of Lifeworks digitally. Like that's something a traditional advisor, the only way you can access the advisor is, you have to, get an appointment, get a call, so they can make sure that you have enough money, basically. And then, then you can hopefully get started. For us, we do digital account opening, and very soon, within a day, you'll have an account open, at a custodian ready to invest. That's something that's very different from, it's like that hybrid model between the robo-advisor onboarding process and then the traditional onboarding process of an advisor. We're kind of trying to be in the middle, bring the best of both worlds, I guess.
Yeah, I love that approach. I love that you talk first and get to know them before you stick them in 60% stocks, 40% bond ETFs, and we'll never talk to you again.
Yeah.
From what I know about people, I guess I shouldn't be surprised that if someone's willing to listen, they want to share and talk. Most people love when someone listens to them or cares and is there to help them. And I think that historically you've had to choose. You've either got an advisor who doesn't have the best tools, doesn't have the technology and data science to actually invest really effectively, you either go to that advisor who's going to listen and care, but they maybe can't invest as effectively, or you don't have anyone who cares about you. You just have the automated investing. And so getting started with Lifeworks sounds like it would be, I would have a lot of confidence knowing that I've got both, technology, smart folks behind the scenes, and a person who cares and understands my situation. Yeah, I love it. So that's lifeworksadvisors.com. Yeah, it looks like you can chat, you can set up a meeting, it's all there. Do you both work remotely for Lifeworks Advisors? I suppose with the pandemic, you've probably had to. What's that been like? This is kind of less about the business and more just about like how you're handling the challenges of being dispersed. I mean, I guess it comes naturally if you can open accounts remotely and be a technology company, but has the pandemic made it easy or harder to be working on these technology problems?
I think much harder. So the company is in Michigan. I'm in New York. Alex is in France. So I don't have it too bad because I'm on the same time frame. But I think it becomes very hard to really collaborate effectively if you're working remotely. That's at least my experience. And I go to Michigan at least once a month, and I really benefit from being able to meet in person with the developers and our team and the CEO and all of that. I think that's super important to me. And Alex has another story because he's very remote in France.
Yeah, I'm working on a 6-hour time difference, so all day, every day, which is adding a layer of complexity, I would say, to what Hugo mentioned. And I would second really what Hugo said to me as well. Like not being able to gather in a room with someone when you're trying to solve sometimes we really do have to solve tough problems. And when you can't get people's body language type of feedback, that really is a pain sometimes. So the pandemic has had a lot of benefits, like allowing you to work from home and seeing family and seeing the old friends that I have in France. So that is great. But on the other hand, I wish sometimes I was typically with Hugo in an office room and the other guys on the tech team and being able to chat more efficiently.
Yeah, when I do development work or writing work, kind of like heads down, deep work, I love being remote. There's no distractions. I can control my environment. But when I want to be creative and collaborative, which you when you're in a fintech company, you always have to be innovating. You have to be building new things and discussing and throwing ideas around. That is such a challenge to do remotely when you're not in the same room. And like even on this call, your internet's down, your internet's up. It's like there's always some challenge.
You've been frozen for the last 10 minutes, so yeah.
Yeah. So even doing an interview can be hard. So I give you a lot of credit for continuing to put out new features and innovate for your clients, even remotely. Super excited to see what comes next for Lifeworks and the future of investing in this kind of dual approach with an advisor and technology. So thank you so much for being on the show today, Hugo and Alex. It was